All right, gang, we're back at it. Welcome back to the channel. My name's CJ. If you haven't been here before, do me a favor, hit subscribe, leave a like on this video if it helps you out in any way. Yesterday we had our first live stream in a really long time. It was really the only the third time I think that I've ever went live before. So you guys kind of turned out, showed up in the chat, and you seem to really like that format. So we're going to try it again today for NBA and take a look at some of these player props over on PrizePicks. If you don't play on PrizePicks yet, as you can see, you can get a 100% instant deposit match on your first deposit all the way up to $100. They're going to match you dollar for dollar all the way up to $100, doubling your money instantly. All you have to do is use promo code Curry over on prizepicks.com. It's that easy. Your first bet will basically be risk-free. So definitely check it out. If you don't play on PrizePicks yet, it is a fun way to play. Anthony, what is up? Notification gang in the house. Anthony Taylor, long time subscriber. Appreciate you, Anthony, man. He's one of my long time supporters. Patreon, of course. If you don't, have a community or a group that you're a part of yet, and you want to be a part of one, Patreon is a good way you can help support me as a content creator. Plus, I give back as much as I humanly can. Write-ups, spreadsheets. We've got a whole group of people in there that are talking different sports: NBA, NFL, CSGO, League of Legends, MLB, even though it's coming to a close, NHL, PGA. I mean, we got everybody dabbling in everything. Anthony Blocker. We got Anthony, and we got Anthony Blocker in the chat. Appreciate the shout out, Anthony. Premium Discord. That's exactly what we're talking about with Patreon. You get access to a private group over on Discord where, we're just mixing it up, dabbling in a bunch of different things, different sports, everything that PrizePicks has to offer. But enough of that. Let's talk about some player props. We're going to go over, a couple of good spots. We're going to use the trends that are available here on props.cash. If you're not familiar with props.cash, it's really, really helpful when researching NBA player props, NFL player props, MLB player props. That's the three sports they offer. Now, a little birdie told me that NHL might be coming soon to props.cash. So definitely something to be on the lookout for, but makes your research really, really easy to do. So let's go ahead and start looking into it. Obviously, the first guy here, if you're looking at the points category on props.cash, that is at the top of the list for player prop trends is CJ McCollum, the guard for the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, his line is at 23.5 according to props.cash, and so far, he's hitting at a 100% hit rate. We like 100% hit rates. That means that this guy is covering 23.5 points, meaning scoring 24 or more points in every game so far this season. So let's go find CJ McCollum here over on PrizePicks. I wish there was an easier way to get to some of these player props, but until they offer a way to filter out by team or by position or something, we just got to get our scroll on like the big timers. Everybody, get your scroll on. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to props.cash. We will go over to Portland versus the Los Angeles Clippers. That is their opponent. This game tips off at 10:30 tonight over on the East Coast. That's where I'm at, over here in Tampa, where we got, some cloudy weather, a little bit of rain going on outside. So let's go down to CJ McCollum. Click that name, and up pops these beautiful bar graphs. Gotta love the bar graphs here on props.cash. Now, what's fantastic about this site is you can easily, with these row of buttons here across the top, switch from points to rebounds to assists and so on and so forth. You can also change this up if you want to look at maybe just his last 5 games. We can do that. We could click his last 5, and it goes back to last season. Obviously, we don't have 5 games yet for this season. We're trying to build that game log up. Once that game log starts to fill out, props.cash will get even better for NBA. It's a fantastic tool for NFL if you haven't checked it out, because we already have, an accumulation of game logs. So as you can see, the first 2 games of this season, CJ McCollum has hit 34 points against the Sacramento Kings and 28 points against the Phoenix Suns. Now, interesting enough is that if we go back to last season against the Los Angeles Clippers, we got 3 game logs. And, last season's last season, of course, but it's worth noting that he did drop 25, 24, and 28 against the Clippers in those 3 meetings. So 25.7 points per game against Los Angeles in those games puts him over 23.5. Obviously, we need 24 points out of CJ McCollum tonight. Now, we could also take a look here. They provide the overs and unders as far as how other sports books, how they're receiving action on this prop. You could see he's a minus 108 for the over, minus 114 on the under. So, not seeing any strong action one way or the other on this particular prop. So let's go back to the season view here. Overall, in his last 55 games at 23.5 points, he's got a 45% cover rate. So again, this is looking at mostly last season. So you got to take that into consideration. New year, new you. Hopefully it's a new year for CJ McCollum. And if we're looking to go over on this prop tonight, he covers for us. Now, we could scroll down a little bit. Props.cash makes your research that much easier by providing you some stats for the Los Angeles Clippers defense. And you can see here that currently against shooting guards, which is, CJ McCollum's role, he's kind of a combo guard, but Damian Lillard, obviously the point guard there in Portland. And then you've got CJ McCollum as the wing. 14th in the league, Los Angeles Clippers against opposing shooting guards. So kind of middle of the pack. We're not really scared of this matchup. It's not one that's overly imposing or difficult per se, based on what we've seen so far in just a small sample size, couple of games, obviously, into the NBA season. And then we scroll on down a little bit more and you get some more ideas of how CJ McCollum is doing so far. You can get his field goal attempts. So let's look at the last 5 here. More importantly, the last 2, attempting 24 shots, 19 shots, shooting pretty good percentage, actually, 58%, 53%. So he's getting up shots. He's getting plenty of shots up. In fact, lots of three-point attempts, 11 three-point attempts in the first 2 games, converting on 6 for 11. That's over 50% from three-point range. So 3-point prop, another, way to go potentially here on CJ McCollum. I know we're talking points, but got a lot of options here with this guy as long as he's putting up shots and racking up points. So there you go. That's one trend, the first trend of many that we're going to look at here on props.cash. Let's try to find maybe one more guy, another points prop that could be interesting. Anthony points out a good point. CJ McCollum can drop 24 with Powell. Now with Powell out, this should be easy. I concur, my friend. I agree. Without Norman Powell in there, that's just more opportunities, more shots for CJ McCollum. So I think this could be a good way to go. Let's cap this thing off. Let's look at NumberFire, a free site, by the way. All you have to do is sign up with like a Google account, and then you get free access to all of their player props. But we could take a look at CJ McCollum's projected points here just to kind of give you a better idea of where they project him to score. He's at 23 points, which isn't terrible. Of course, his line is 23.5, but 23.5, you kind of get an idea. He's going to be in that ballpark, 23 to 24 points. So based on what I've seen so far out of 2 games, I think the over could be a good way to go here for Mr. McCollum. So let's move things back here and look at some more trends for points. Let's see somebody else that has been standing out. And you can see that there's 4 guys here at the top of the list who all have a 100% hit rate on their points prop. Let's talk maybe about the other guy from this game, Paul George, 28.5. He's had a pretty strong start to the season so far, so we could click Paul George's name. And the first 2 games of the season, balling out. 29 points against Golden State back on the 21st of October. And against Memphis in his last game, 41 points. So Paul George, 28.5 on PrizePicks right now, has covered in his first 2 games. 2 out of 2, that's a 100% cover rate. Now let's go and see how he did against Portland. This is going to factor in some games from last season. And he faced Portland a total of 3 times last season. He covered in 2 out of those 3 games. That's a 67% hit rate if you round up, 66.6 if we are splitting hairs. But as you can see, a pretty darn good point per game average, over 30 points per game against Portland. So that leaves a little bit of headroom here on this 28.5 point prop for him to go over. Now let's scroll down here and see how Portland's been doing against opposing small forwards to start the season. You can see that they rank 13th, which isn't great, but isn't terrible. Kind of middle of the road, a middling average defense against small forwards. So 13th, not anything that's going to scare me off of this particular prop. We could scroll down a little bit more here, kind of get a look at his minutes, playing a healthy complement of minutes against Portland in the past. Let's go to the last 5 view. 36.5, 34.5 to start the season. So 35, 36, 37 minutes in that range. Attempting plenty of shots here, 23 field goal attempts in his first game, 25 in his second game. So getting the shots up, getting plenty of three-pointers up, 11 and 12. You can see he hit 5 and 5. So just like CJ McCollum, if he continues to shoot this volume of threes, you could go to his three-point prop too. If you're not feeling great about the points prop, if you think for some reason that he may not get there on the points prop, check out his three-point prop. We could do that real quick right now. Go to three-pointers made. Let's see if they got Paul George up here. They do. They got him at 3. And just to backtrack, they got CJ McCollum at 3 as well. So these guys have crushed their three-point props to start the season. So points or three-point props, good way to go here as these two superstars face off in tonight's game. Now, we'll cap things off here by giving you a projection for points for Paul George. And he is at 28 points. So just like CJ McCollum, very, very close here. He's going to be in that 28 to 30 point range, most likely, according to what we're seeing here. So Paul George at 28.5. I think I'd probably lean toward the over. But what do you guys say? Leave a comment in the comments section or in the chat. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and look at some other trends here. We'll go back to today's trends on props.cash. We'll move this from points. We've talked about a couple of point props and even dabbled in, with a little bit of three-point props. So let's move it over to assists and take a look at some of the guys here who are crushing their assist prop to start the season. And Jonas Valanciunas, obviously he's a center. He's at 1.5. Some of these props are not going to be on PrizePicks, but let's see if Joe Val is up on PrizePicks at this prop. I'd be really surprised if they had him up here. Normally they don't include center props, but yeah, he's not up here if we do a little search. How about Will Barton? Trill Will. Says Will Barton's up here, and he is. He's at 3.5 assists over on PrizePicks. So Will Barton at 3.5 has a 100% hit rate so far to start the season. So you love to see that from Will Barton. So let's go ahead, change this from points to assist. We'll filter out all these games and just get down to the Denver Nuggets so we could find Will Barton easier. You can also use the little search function here up at the top of the props.cash page. If you'd rather do that, that's an option for you as well. But I try to keep off of the keyboard because it's mechanical, it's loud, it's clicky. We'll try and just stick to using mouse clicks. But anyway, let's look at the last 5 view here for Will Barton. We'll move this over to the assist category, and you can see that against Phoenix, 5 dimes dropped. And then against the San Antonio Spurs, 6 dimes dropped. So he's covered this 3.5 assist prop in his first 2 games to start the year. Of course, they're still without Jamal Murray, which means there's more assists to go around without that true bona fide point guard. Of course, Monty Morris is filling in for Jamal Murray in this starting lineup. Then you got Jokic, who's kind of just the superstar, do-it-all player for the Denver Nuggets. So, there's other guys who are getting involved with assists, but to see Will Barton benefiting is actually kind of surprising. So he's covered in his first 2 games. Now, if you look at the lines here for this prop, he's a minus 114 to go over. Are those super strong odds? Not really. Here's the thing that I've noticed, though. When the odds are super strong on some of these other sports books, PrizePicks has a tendency to round a prop up or round a prop down, meaning this 0.5, the hook, as it's known by, is taken off. So you're either going to get 3 assists or in Will Barton's case, 4 assists if the action was too strong. So just something to kind of keep an eye on. I don't like playing rounded props. I like playing, for wins and losses. I like clear-cut decisions. I don't want to push on a prop because that could screw your whole lineup. Let's say you have a 2-pick power play and one of the picks push. Well, you don't win quite as much money. So let's see how he did against Cleveland last year. He only played against Cleveland in 1 game. Still dropped 3 assists, so a respectable number. Didn't go over, and most likely Jamal Murray was in the lineup for this game. I'd have to go back and look, but not a big sample size to look at for Will Barton in this assist prop. So let's scroll on down the line here. Just kind of look at his matchup against Cleveland. Not so important when you're talking about assist. But shooting guards, they are 13th in the league. Cleveland is against opposing shooting guards. Their overall defensive rating, pretty terrible. They're 25th ranked. So we're not really worried too much about Cleveland and their defense. In terms of minutes, 33 minutes and 31, almost 32 minutes to start the season off. So he's getting plenty of run. Of course, you've got to be out on the court in order to accumulate stats. And that's what we want. We want guys out there getting as many minutes as possible in competitive games. We want this, to go into overtime, double overtime, triple overtime. The more competitive the game, the better. when we're looking to take overs on these player props. But Will Barton at 3.5, looking good so far. So we could go back over here to Number Fire real quick. Let's go ahead to save time and do some typing. We'll type Will Barton's assist prop in. Now, he's projected for 3.1 assists. So just like the first 2 point props we looked at, this is the type of thing that could kind of break either way. I mean, it's not over, like we were hoping. We were hoping for maybe we come here and see maybe like 4 assists for Will Barton, but he's at 3.1, so it's doable. It's doable. And based on the 2 games that we have to look at, small sample size, it looks like one that maybe he could hit. So there you go. That's another prop to keep an eye out on tonight. Let's look at one more. And do we want to go back to Portland and talk Damian Lillard and his assist prop, which is 7.5? I mean, let's do it because he's at 100% hit rate. And that's what we want. We want high hit rates. So let's go back to Portland. Let's look at Damian Lillard's assist prop and see how well he's been doing this season so far. So we got his last 5 pulled up, the assist category pulled up. Let's find him here on PrizePicks. Easy peasy. He's at 7.5 assists. So far to start the season off, he drops 11 dimes against the Kings and then comes back. Not as good of a game, but still enough to get him over the prop today at 7.5, 8 against Phoenix. So that's 2 covers in his first 2 games. Now, a little concerning here against the Clippers in 2 previous meetings, going back to last season. So that's all we have to go on. Back on December 30th, 4 assists, and then April 6th, 6 assists. Has not covered in his 2 previous matchups, his 2 most recent matchups against the Los Angeles Clippers. So a little bit of a cause for concern, averaging 5 assists against the Clippers in those 2 games. So let's click it back over to the last 5 game view. If you're interested in the odds, he's a minus 118 to go over as of right now. So we'll go ahead and scroll on down. Look at the matchup here against the Clippers. Against opposing point guards, they actually suck. They're 30th in the league against opposing point guards. Again, probably not too big of an impact on a point guard's assist props, but just worth noting, if you want to take Damian Lillard some other way, maybe you don't want his assists, maybe you want his points or fantasy points even, not a tough matchup whatsoever. Actually, a very, very soft and friendly matchup for our friend Dame. Scrolling on down here, he plays 40 minutes against Sacramento in game 1 of the season. Game 2 of the season, just 24.5 minutes against Phoenix. Now, I don't know what happened there. I'd have to go back and look at the box score, but maybe it was a blowout situation and he didn't get a full run of minutes. Marty, I appreciate you loving me. I love you back, brother. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Leave a like on this, guys. If you're finding any value from the research that I'm helping you with, please leave a like. I appreciate that, man. It helps me grow. Share the channel. Share this live stream with whoever you want, whoever needs to see this information. And then down at the very bottom of Prop.Cash, you got all the injury stuff. I didn't mention that before, but Serge Ibaka out for LA, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Preston also out for LA, Tony Snell out for Portland, Keon Johnson out for LA. So those are some injuries to kind of be mindful of. Let's cap this thing off here. Damian Lillard, let's go look at an assist projection for Dame Dollar. We'll go back up to the top of the list. They've got Damian Lillard projected for, funny enough, exactly 7.5 assists. So this might be one to avoid, although he does have a 100% hit rate to start the season. First 2 games covered this prop in both of them. You might want to take the under or just fade it altogether because A, he hasn't done a good job of covering this prop against the Clippers in the past, going back to last season. B, the projection right at 7.5. Not seeing a lot of value here. So, do with this information what you will. So we talked a couple of assist props. Let's move it over to the rebound category here. We got our friend Will Barton back up. We're not going to go back to Will Barton. We've talked enough about Mr. Trill Will. So let's go ahead and talk about BI, Brandon Ingram, New Orleans Pelicans forward. Obviously, Zion Williamson yet to make his season debut. So it's the BI show, the Brandon Ingram show. And they're taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. Game tips off at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over here on the East Coast. 813 Tampa Bay in the house. Champa Bay. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm from. That's where I'm broadcasting live at. So let's look at Brandon Ingram at 5.5 boards. Back over here we go. We're going to filter this out, change it from assists to total rebounds. Let's change this over to New Orleans versus Minnesota. And we'll find our boy Brandon Ingram. All right, so to start the season off, This is assists. There we go. Rebounds. That looks better. 7 boards against Philly, 8 boards against Chicago, and then he's got 6 boards against Minnesota. So we got a bigger sample size here. He's actually got 3 games in the game log so far. So to see him cover this prop in 3 straight games is, a vote of confidence, in my opinion. That is a great sign. 3 for 3. That's a 100% hit rate to start the season. If you want to go back to last season and look at these games against Golden State, can't be mad at a 60% hit rate over his last 5 either. I mean, that's still pretty darn good. If we click and look at how he matched up against Minnesota last year, well, it didn't look so good. But you got to factor in Zion was probably there. Steven Adams was probably in the mix. There was other guys who were getting their grubby little mitts on those rebounds. And those guys are not in the picture anymore, Steven Adams and Zion Williamson. Not at the moment anyway. So more rebounds for Brandon Ingram. Let's just hope. And you can see in his last game against Minnesota, this is obviously a back-to-back situation for Brandon Ingram. He pulls in 6 boards, facing Minnesota again tonight. What has really changed from last game to this game that would prevent Brandon Ingram from covering this prop again? Probably not much. But it is worth noting that currently the money is coming in on the under on this prop, minus 122 to go under. So, kind of hate to see that. Wondering what the bettors out there are thinking with this particular prop with a guy who's covered in 3 of his first 3 games. Now looking at the matchup here, small forwards against the Minnesota Timberwolves, they've actually been kind of difficult to small forwards, ranking 6th overall in the league. Now you could look at the offensive and defensive rebounds allowed, which is a lovely little thing. They're allowing opposing players, I guess they're ranked 23rd in the league in defensive rebounds allowed and ranked 20th in offensive rebounds allowed. So just to make sense of this, they are not very good in terms of keeping opposing players from rebounding the basketball. I think I said that right. Overall, they're 22nd in the league in terms of rebounds allowed to the small forward position. Or maybe just in general. I don't know if that's for the small forward position. But anyway, guys, they're allowing a lot of rebounds. So just more reason to like this prop, in my opinion, even though the bettors are not liking it. They're taking the under on this prop. Kind of weird. Looking at his minutes, though, plenty of minutes, 36, 34, 40, getting tons of run. We're not really worried about his minutes so far. And then you can kind of get an idea of what the injury situation is. Josh Hart, Dalton Holmes, and Zion Williamson all out for New Orleans tonight. So I don't know. I'm liking it. Let's look at a projection here for this rebound prop and see how that stacks up. We'll type in Brandon Ingram's name, and here we go again. Another prop that has a high hit rate where these projections on number fire just don't seem to agree. 4.9 rebounds, that puts him slightly under 5.5 boards. Now, maybe that's why people are taking the under on this prop today. Maybe they're using projection sites like Number Fire and some of these other ones out there, and they're seeing the projections are below 5.5, and maybe that's leading their decision making. I don't know. I like to look at the historical data. I like to look at projections. I like to try and kind of come up with a well-rounded view of a player's prop. So there you have it for Brandon Ingram, 5.5 boards. Hopefully that helps you make a good decision tonight. And who else do we want to look at here in terms of rebounds? Let's talk about Nikola Jokic, big joker, 12.5 boards. He has covered this so far 100% of the time to start the season off. So let's go find him here on PrizePicks. He's also at 12.5 boards, so that's a good sign. What's up, DFS Whispers? What is up, my brother? What is up? Anthony says he is in Lakeland, Florida, one of the Freedom States. I hear you, brother. It's nice to live in Florida. It's got its pros. It's got its cons, I think. Tony, if you're looking for premium Discord link, check out the link down in the description of this video. It should be up. If not, you can follow me on Twitter at Curry the Creator. There's a link in my bio on Twitter if you're looking for links to, deposit on PrizePicks. If you're looking to sign up for props.cash, if you're looking for links to join the Discord, support me on Patreon, all that stuff is out there for you on my Twitter if you want to go find me on Twitter at Curry the Creator, like Tyler the Creator or Stephen Curry, but kind of combine the both, Anyway, Jokic, 12.5 rebounds. Let's take a look at him. We're going to drop this to the Cleveland-Denver game. Probably a little bit of blowout concern here. Cleveland, not a very good team. Denver, a pretty darn good team. So hopefully Nikola Jokic sees enough run in this game and isn't benched in the fourth quarter because they're up by 20 points or something like that. Hopefully that's not the case, but it is something worth considering, something to think about in any case when you're looking to take overs in these player props or fantasy points. So looking at his last 5, because this view here is probably the most relevant because it's got the first 2 games. Phoenix, 13 rebounds, barely gets over the hump at 12.5 boards, but against the Spurs, 16 boards, crushes his prop of 12.5. So he's got a 100% cover rate to start the season. If you go back and look at his last 5 games, he's actually 4 for 5 at covering this player prop. So that's an 80% cover rate to start the season. You love that success, or 80% cover rate going back to last season, 100% cover rate to start this season. But anyway, a very high rate of cover. Now, you're looking at the odds here. He's a minus 124 to go over. So the action's coming in on the over at this 12.5 rebound prop. Let's look at Cleveland's or matchups against Cleveland last year. Had just 6 boards back on February 10th of this year, and then February 19th in a rematch against Cleveland, just 12 boards. So you have to go back and look at those box scores. Was this game a blowout? Did he get enough run to get over the hump? I don't know. Could have been one of those situations where he saw the bench early and didn't get the full run that he was hoping for. So definitely something worth considering with Nikola Jokic. We'll scroll on down the line here and take a look. Cleveland's defense, some of their stats here. Overall, their defensive rating is piss poor. It's 25. That's terrible. You know, they're not a very good team. We know that. Rebounds allowed, they rank 14th in rebounds allowed, kind of putting them middle of the pack. I think this is a situation where Jokic could possibly feast on the glass here, pending he gets enough minutes. That's going to be the theme here for me on this particular player prop. Going down here, looking at his first 2 games, 34.7, 33.6. So he's not even hitting the 36-minute mark in the first 2 games. A little concerning for this particular prop. So let's cap this off for you on Nikola Jokic. We'll go back to the rebound section here on NumberFire. Again, NumberFire completely free if you're looking for some free projections on props. They've got them for you. And once again, NumberFire pretty bearish on all the props that we've looked at so far. They've got Nikola Jokic at 11 rebounds, putting him under his prop of 12.5. So this is another one of those situations where it's got a high hit rate. But according to the projections, I don't know how much you want to buy into them or believe in them. They got him going under 12.5 boards tonight. So let's move on. We've talked enough about rebounds, giving you a couple of picks here, a couple of plays from each statistical category. We're going to wrap this up with 3-point makes. And then I'll turn to chat. Chat, if you guys have any props, any picks, any plays that you're liking, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I will do a little research after I finish up this 3-point prop category for you. I already saw Charles, you dropped a couple of them in there. He says he hit on his 2 football bets that he made yesterday. He's liking Reggie Jackson under 17.5 points. All right, we'll take a look at Reggie Jackson in just a moment. Let's get through these 3-point props real quick, and then we'll take a couple of questions, and then we'll wrap this thing up. You guys can go lock in some entries before these lines start getting too crazy. All right, Paul George, Anthony Edwards, CJ McCollum, Robert Covington, all at a 100% cover rate. I'm going to stay away from Rocco. Reason being is he's typically a role player on his team. I like to take guys who I know are the alphas on their team. Guys like CJ McCollum, guys like Anthony Edwards, and guys like Paul George. I like guys that I know are going to get a ton of shots and going to get a ton of volume. Now, we've already talked about Paul George and CJ McCollum, that we like their points props, and we like the volume that they're getting from beyond the arc. They're taking a ton of threes. They're making a ton of threes. So we've already kind of discussed that. If you missed that, just rewind the stream and you can go back and watch that. But let's go ahead and talk Anthony Edwards, because we have not discussed any Ant Edwards today. So we're going to do it now. So we're going to scroll down the line here. Anthony Edwards is at 2.5 3-point makes versus the New Orleans Pelicans tonight. So at 2.5, he's got a 100% cover rate to start the season. Let's move this from total rebounds to the 3-point field goals made category. And let's switch this from Cleveland at Denver to New Orleans at Minnesota. And we'll click Anthony Edwards' name here. And right now we are at the last 5 view according to props.cash. And we're going to need to click the 3-point category here. And you can see that to start the season, 6 3-pointers made and 3 3-pointers made against New Orleans, which New Orleans is tonight's opponent. This is a rematch. This is a back-to-back Minnesota-New Orleans, in case you missed that point earlier. So he did cover this prop in his last game against New Orleans, draining 3 3-pointers. So 100% cover rate to start the season. If we go back and look at his last 5 games, an 80% cover rate dating back to last year. So things are looking good here for Ant Edwards. He is a minus 128 to go over this 2.5 3-point field goal prop as well. And in his last 3, he is averaging 3.8 3-point field goals made. So that is a good average. Now against New Orleans, let's look at his last 4 games against the Pels. 2, 2, 2, and 3. Now these 3 where he missed, that's from last year. New year, new you, Anthony Edwards. You have an opportunity here to keep your 100% cover rate alive against New Orleans tonight. So that's what we're hoping for. Let's scroll down here and take a look at the New Orleans Pelicans defensive stats. You can see their overall defensive rating, not very good. They rank 23rd in the NBA right now. They're terrible. 3-pointers allowed per game. I guess this is they're 29th ranked. So they're allowing a ton of 3-pointers to opposing players. So I'm liking Anthony Edwards here in this player prop of 2.5 3-point makes. I think this is a good way to go. New Orleans not defending the 3 ball well at all, right? I mean, this is a seemingly a smash spot here for Anthony Edwards. We know he's going to score a lot. We know he's going to get a lot of shots. He's a focal point of the offense, so I'm liking things here for Ant Edwards. Now against Houston, 31.2 minutes played, 37 minutes against New Orleans. Hopefully we get closer to this 36, 37-minute mark again in this rematch against the Pels. More minutes equals more opportunities for production for our fantasy and sports betting purposes. And if you scroll down here, you can kind of get a look at how many threes he's taking for the first 2 games here. He attempted 12 threes in the first game against the Houston Rockets, converted on 6 of those 12 attempts, 50%, very good percentage there. And he didn't take quite as many against New Orleans in their first matchup. He shot 8, made only 3. So you'd like to see that percentage up a little bit, but 38% still not bad. Maybe we could get a little more volume tonight and a little bit higher 3-point field goal percentage. And really no noteworthy injuries for Minnesota. So I wish I could give you a projection here on Number Fire for 3-point prop, but they don't offer those for whatever reason. But all in all, I think Anthony Edwards over 2.5 3-point makes looks like a solid way to go based on the limited data we've got. So all right, to the chat we go. Let's take a few questions from chat. I saw that there was a couple of props that were being dropped in there. The first one that my buddy Charles wanted me to look at was Reggie Jackson under 17.5 points. I know Reggie Jackson's been pretty hot from beyond the arc in terms of 3-point makes. Been doing a pretty good job of covering that 3-point prop, but you're more interested in seeing his point prop. Okay, let's do it. Let's head over to the points category, and we'll change this up from the current game to Portland and LA. Reggie Jackson, 17.5 points. Let's scroll back up to the top. All right, I can see what you're seeing. I see what you're seeing now. The first 2 games, 11 points against Golden State. 17 against Memphis. This one was probably a sweat if you took Reggie Jackson at 17.5 points against Memphis and he went under. That would be a very bad beat for you based on the 17.5 points projection. So he has failed to cover this prop in 2 straight games to kick things off this season. Let's see how he did against Portland last year. In 3 matchups against Portland, he hit this in just 1 out of 3 games. That's a 33% cover rate. Now, right now, the action's coming in on the over at 17.5 points, minus 114, but it's also a minus 108 to go under. So, look, this isn't a clear-cut situation where you have to take the over on Reggie Jackson. We're seeing juice action coming in on both sides of this player prop. So, let's look at the last 5 again. We'll scroll down here. Portland defense, overall 29th in the NBA. Terrible start for Portland in terms of defense, albeit a small sample size. They're allowing, as far as points allowed, they rank 23rd. That puts them toward the bottom of the league. And yeah, you can see all their statistical categories here. Field goals allowed, three-pointers allowed, and point guard defense. They rank 15th in point guard defense. So this could be a spot where, it looks like a soft matchup in terms of the defensive matchups and stuff here for Reggie Jackson. But let's move down here. We'll take a look at his field goal attempts. They're actually pretty darn high to start the season. 19 field goal attempts, shooting 4 for 19. 17 field goal attempts, going 7 for 17. Terrible field goal percentages to start the season. Will that trend continue tonight against Portland, who is a softer matchup, an easier matchup? Only time will tell. But so far, yeah, I don't know if I want to go here. I don't know if I want to go here with this prop. Let's go ahead and cap it off, though. We'll look at the projections for his points tonight. Let's go find Reggie Jackson here. Not seeing him, so let's do a little search. There he is, 16.3. So once again, the number fires projections are taking a more conservative approach on most of these player props. They've got him going under 17.5 points here. So if you like the under, you got some projections here that kind of back up that gut feeling that you might have had. But the numbers that I'm seeing, although he's failed to cover this in his first 2 games, this looks like an easy matchup for him. And I know there's going to be a lot of points scored. It's probably going to be tight. It's probably going to be competitive. I don't know. That's a fade for me. I don't think I'm going to go there. I don't think I'm going to go with Reggie Jackson points. What else do we have here, chat? I'm not going to talk fantasy points. That's a whole different beast, whole different animal. If you want fantasy points projections, though, you could go to numberfire.com. They've got them there. Make sure you're using the FanDuel projections, because FanDuel scoring, PrizePicks scoring, one and the same. They're exactly the same. Taylor Genghis says, yo, I'm going to throw you on the classroom screen and make my students take notes. I guess, yeah, he's a teacher, it sounds like. Yeah. Trae Young over 2 3-pointers made. Juan Garcia. Thank you so much for dropping that gem into the chat. Let's go take a look at Trae Young. We will flip this over. They're taking on the Detroit Pistons tonight. Going to look at the 3-point category. Switch this up to 3-point field goals made. And find Ice Trae Young, who's at 2.5. 2.5 according to props.cash. Let's go find him on PrizePicks, because PrizePicks, they like to throw up, custom lines, alternate player prop lines. In this case, they're taking the low road here on Trae Young and his 3-point makes. So he's at 2 3-point makes here on PrizePicks. Let's move this little slider down. We finally get to use this alternate player prop slider here. So we moved him down to 2. And you can see how things are changing here. Now against Dallas in the first game, he made exactly 2 3-pointers, which would be a push. Don't like that. And I especially don't like the 1 3-point made that he had against the Cleveland Cavaliers in a very soft matchup. So if you look back at his last 4 games, going back to last season, he's just 1 for 4, 25% cover rate. In his first 2 games this year, I guess we'll include this one. We'll call it 50% to start the year in terms of getting 2 or more 3-point makes. So it's not looking great. His averages are pretty decent, though. 2 3-point makes in his last 5 on average, 2.6 in his last 10, 2.3 overall. And then against Detroit, faced off against them twice last season, had 2 in one game and then had 3 in another game. So, I mean, technically that's a 100% hit rate in terms of getting 2 or more 3-point makes. So that's not bad. But, last season was last season. I'm going to keep saying that because, it's the truth. In terms of where the action's coming in on 2.5 3-point makes, at 2.5 3-point makes, he is a minus 150 to go under. I wish we could get an idea of what he would be at 2, but most of the sports books out there, they got him listed at 2.5, so we can't really look at that. So scrolling on down the line here, let's look at the Detroit defense real quick. Overall, their defensive rating is 16th. 3-pointers allowed, they rank number 2. So they're not giving up a ton of 3-pointers so far to opposing players to start this season. So that's not looking very promising. But one thing that does look good is that in terms of point guard defense, they rank 28th. So damn near dead last against opposing point guards in total defense against the position. So, I guess I would lean toward the over on Trae Young. I could see where this would easily turn into a push situation. I don't know. I don't know what to think. I'm not loving it. The action is minus 150 on the under at 2.5. That probably sets up for about two three-pointers made tonight. So I would take the over. Worst case, maybe it pushes, but maybe he gets lucky and comes out and drills at least three balls for you. John Collins points. I'm thinking over. Okay, John Collins, another Atlanta Hawks prop. Let's take a look at it. Switch things up here from 3-point field goals to points. We'll find Mr. Collins in the row of players here. He's at 14.5 according to props.cash. Let's see where he's at on PrizePicks. See if he's still at 14.5. They do have him at 14.5 facing off against Detroit tonight. So far to start the season, John Collins covered in his first game against Dallas, and then he goes way under here against Cleveland. And this kind of goes back to last season. To me, he was a very inconsistent player when everybody for Atlanta was healthy. Now, will everybody be healthy for Atlanta tonight? Let's go down and look. For Atlanta, Danilo Gallinari, questionable. I don't know how to say his name. Okongwu, questionable for Atlanta. And Lou Williams, questionable for Atlanta. So if those guys are out, I don't know how much that they really impact John Collins. Maybe Gallinari is the most impactful to John Collins' overall production tonight. But so far, he's 1 for 2 at covering this prop. If we look at his previous matchups against Detroit from last season, got 3 games in the game log. He covered in 2 out of 3, averaged 20 points per game against Detroit in those 3 games. Had one outstanding game here where he smashed with 31 points. And then he was around 15 to 14 points in the other 2 games. So I'd be careful with this one. Like I said, very inconsistent player. He can have great games. Sometimes he can have very bad games too. Let's look at the defensive matchup against Detroit. Get an idea. Overall defensive rating for the Pistons this season so far. Limited games, obviously 16th ranked. They rank 10th in points allowed. And power forward defense, they actually rank 6th. In points in the paint, they rank 7th. So they've been pretty tough against opposing big guys. So be careful with John Collins and this prop. Let's see if we can get a point prop for him here over on Number Fire to compare. And he's at 14.8 points, which puts him just ever so slightly over 14.5, puts him really close to 15. So I don't know, not loving this prop. I don't think it's a home run by any means. Just my 2 cents on this one. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yeah, Juan, actually, we did talk about PG-13 before at 28.5 points. He is the guy right now. I like his points and I like his 3-point makes. So 2 different ways you could play Paul George, whichever one you feel more comfortable with. Both seem to make some sense. But let's look at Giannis Antetokounmpo. Not getting any more submissions here from chat, so we'll make Giannis at 12.5 rebounds our last one. We'll let you guys get out of here and go lock in some entries tonight on PrizePicks. Giannis at 12.5 boards over on PrizePicks, facing the Indiana Pacers tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That's where I'm at. So let's fire it up here in props.cash and take a look at Giannis Antetokounmpo. Click the rebound category, scroll back up. And in his last 5 games, he has a 40% cover rate. So just 2 for 5. But that, includes 2 games from last season. Now to start this season off, we've got 3 games in his game log so far, so a larger sample size for him than most players, as Milwaukee has already played 3 games. He covered against Brooklyn with 14 boards, but failed to cover in the next 2 games. Against Miami, just 10. Against San Antonio, just 8. Overall, though, against Indiana, in 2 previous matchups from last year, 14.5 boards averaged versus the Indiana Pacers. So kind of worth noting, he seems to have Indiana's number. This game's going to have to stay close and competitive. They're not going to play Giannis if this game turns into a blowout. They're not going to play him in the 4th quarter and just put, extra minutes and wear and tear on his body. So this game's going to have to stay close and competitive. So you want to make sure you look at the game totals. That's one thing that I like to look for. And I like to look at the spread. I want games that are going to be close and competitive if I'm planning to take overs on any studs like Giannis Antetokounmpo. So let's move it down here. Let's look at Indiana's defense so far. Their overall defensive rating is 13th. Maybe that impacts his rebounding prowess. Maybe it doesn't. But where things really look good here for Giannis is that Indiana's allowing I'm sorry, they're not allowing. They are the 25th ranked team in the NBA in terms of rebounds allowed, meaning they're giving up a ton of rebounds to opposing teams and opposing players. They rank 30th in offensive rebounds allowed, and they rank 21st in defensive rebounds allowed. So there you have it. I mean, they are giving up a ton of boards here. So if the game stays close, competitive, and Giannis gets a full run of minutes, this could be a way to go in terms of taking the over on the 12.5 rebounds, despite the poor hit rate to start the season. So let's go back to the rebounds category here. We'll look at Antetokounmpo's projected rebounds according to our friends here at Number Fire. And once again, Number Fire taking the conservative approach to a lot of these single stat player props so far. We've seen a lot of unders here over on Number Fire using their projections. They've got him at 11.1 rebounds, which would put him well under 12.5 by one or more rebounds. So there you go. Sabonis over on points or rebounds. Points or rebounds. So he's at 11.5 boards and he's at 20.5 points. Let's do a quick glimpse into this and just kind of give you a quick idea of how well he's been rebounding. So his rebounds so far, if we set him at 11.5, like he is over on PrizePicks. There we go. 11.5 like he is over on PrizePicks. He's covered this in 2 out of 3 games, so that's a 60% hit rate. Against Milwaukee, you could see previous matchups against the Bucks, just 9 rebounds, which would put him under. Of course, we just talked about Giannis being a decent rebounding option. Seems like Indiana's given up a bunch of boards to opposing players, so this could be a tough one for Domantas Sabonis. Let's look at his points real quick. He's also 2 for 3 in covering his points prop to start the season. 33, though, against Charlotte, 28 against Washington, and tonight he is at 20.5. I'd probably feel a little bit better in this situation, maybe going with his points, because even the game that he didn't cover, he still put up 17 against a tough Miami team. So, I don't know. I'd probably lean toward the points on Domantas Sabonis. Nick, you had the same question, Sabonis over on points. Yeah, I mean, I think the points for me would probably be the way that I would go. Let's look at the projections real quick. Maybe that will shine a little bit more light, lead to a little bit more informed decision on Domantas Sabonis tonight. So they got Sabonis at exactly 20.5 points, just like he is on PrizePicks, and they've got his rebounds at 11.5. So not really seeing much of an edge. If you feel strongly about it for one way or the other, then, you know, by all means, take that. But that's going to do it, guys. I appreciate you all dropping into the chat. I appreciate you joining me on the stream today. If you didn't join me on the stream, you were watching this replay, leave a like on this video. Comment below if there's any player props that you're absolutely loving. I'm going to get out of here. If you guys want to subscribe and you're not yet, I'd appreciate that. I appreciate all the likes, the shares, and everything else. You can follow me over on Twitter at Curry the Creator. Links to everything will be down in the description of this video. So you can check out Patreon, Discord, props.cash if you want to sign up. Or if you don't play on PrizePicks yet, you can deposit on there and get a 100% instant deposit match. I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'll be dropping an NFL video probably